Okay, I believe we are on, which is good. And I've also completely forgotten to trade out the old Reforged background for the new Silmarillion one. We'll have to do that for next time, I suppose. It'll also be interesting to know if the windowless border thing has taken. So then I can actually interact with people, as opposed to flying blind. But yes, we are online, which is good. Hello. J-Monster will be joining us shortly, I believe, after he has had his fill of food. But this does give me a little bit of time to ask what faction you would like me to play, because it is going to be open season with regards to factions. Let's have a little look. Just going to custom battle for now, and that'll do. So, there are now 8 on offer after all. Now, the only one I haven't played up until this point is the Easterlings, so I would maybe be leaning towards them, but ultimately it will be up to you. And that will, of course, determine what team members we will have at our disposal as well, because it will probably be good versus evil, I would imagine. Less evil options, because there are only 3 of them, but that should be enough. Yeah, the most Imladris-like would be Feanor. They've got the big armour, the heavy cavalry, shielded infantry and the like. If people want me to play Feanor, then we'll have to play on the good side, which I have got no issue with at all. Well, it's going to be either Feanor or Doriath looking at this, but either or should be just fine. Obviously just having a little look at the roster now until J-Monster joins. I hope that he doesn't spend too long eating, otherwise we're going to be having a long look at the menu, the wrong menu as well, considering it's got Reforged in the background. But yeah, can definitely work with this, I think. This is actually a unit that it's one of the Regiment of Renown style units that has been added since I last played Feanor, which is effectively a beefed up version of the Defenders of Aglon. So they could be quite interesting to use. Not quite a bodyguard tier unit, even if they do cost almost the same, to be fair, but there are more of them. Perhaps the Elder Enway Swordmasters would be a better comparison. They frighten as well, though, which is pretty powerful. So yeah, okay, we'll play Feanor. And I will actually put out the call on the Discord as well. We'll see Doriath anyway. I would imagine. Because I would be on the same team as J-Monster, and it seems like the most common faction he likes to play is Doriath. Everything in general has got better stats in Reforged, though, I would suggest. The numbers overall are just a little bit higher on average. But among the... You know, if you translate the relative stats across, it would be the best comparison, I think. A single hit point Swordmaster unit that costs over 1,000 with relative, well, very high stats compared to the units that it's around. Feanor have also got by far and away one of the most deadly cavalry unit lineups in Silmarillion as well. Really only Tollingawerhoth actually come close, and that's in quite a different way as well. It's with sort of numbers and with projectiles and the like, the sort of classic wargs that you see. But the Thrangshik are definitely the only other knight unit in the game, aside from the Roqueni, that we will have at our disposal. It's nice to have access to those human spearmen as Feanor as well, because it gives you something a little bit more affordable. Hello, King's Master. Well, factions are being added fairly regularly. I think the next faction that they're on about trying to implement is Fingolfin. I might be wrong about that, but I believe it's the case. But yeah, I think it's not going to have quite so many factions as Reforged when it's done, but it's not going to be too much less. Elder Runway need multiple HP to make up for lack of rangers. The dwarves are the other one that they're going to be doing fairly soon as well. For Silmarillion. I believe it's Fingolfin first though. But I have heard the dwarves spoken about. They'll be quite interesting because they will lack cavalry. So if the more classic dwarves. It'll be interesting to see how they make that work, actually. No, I don't think there's going to be hobbits in Silmarillion. Human factions, I think Hurin is going to be a faction at some point, although I think they're a little bit further away than Fingolfin and the dwarves. Just trying to get some people gathered up, so that I'm not just sat around here like a fool. Yeah, I mean, they will have really good infantry, the dwarves in Silmarillion. I think that probably goes without saying. But yeah, in Reforged, their infantry is very, very strong. Especially Khazad-dûm's, because, you know, the access to new high-tier AP pikes. They obviously suffer a little bit in the cavalry stakes, but you don't necessarily need a huge amount of mobility if you can really wall up in the way that Khazad-dûm can, and don't allow yourself to get pulled around. And they are really letting me down pretty hardcore. No one coming out of the woodwork here. That's why I didn't want to start before J-Monster started, but he insisted. He would have been able to exert some more pull over this unruly bunch. Yeah, they have real heavy armor. The war goat. Well, the war goats are a point of contention. Like in Silmarillion, the dwarves won't have access to cavalry. Favourite faction in Silmarillion or Reforged, King's Master? Gondolin is there as well, yes. They've made a few unit models for Gondolin. Although I'm not sure exactly when they're going to be released. Imladris is... I do like the fact that Imladris can act on the front foot and on the defensive. They're a little bit more at home on the front foot, but I like the changeable nature. No, this is before all of that stuff, so it's sort of like the first age lore where you're not going to have the likes of Numenor and Arnor. It's like no, not in Silmarillion. A lot of the human influences, actually, I think the Easterlings and the Children of Hurin might actually be the only fully human factions in the game. I think a lot of the humans will be sort of auxiliaries to other factions in the way that they are for Feanor. I'll host a game now. Hopefully my internet can withstand this. It'll be very interesting to see if that is the case. It'll also be quite interesting actually to see if the this will be a good opportunity to test if the... Let's do that one. I think this is a pretty decent map, as I've noted before. But I will Alt-Tab just to see if it doesn't break the lobby, because if it does break the lobby, then the windowless border patch hasn't really worked out. Yeah, we got players. Good. Well, in this first game, before J-Monster arrives, I will play as Feanor. And then Doriath looked like the next one on offer. I'm probably the worst person to put in command of the lobbies, to be honest with you, because I believe it's 1400 the game is balanced around for Silmarillion. Right, let's see. Okay, well, Alt-Tab and then Uraki can let me know if it crashes. Again, I apologise as well if you can hear me hammering away on the keyboard, but I don't have access to any of these sound dampening things. Ah, that's not good. Bloody hell. Alright, well, when I'm in game like this, then I'm going to have to not Alt-Tab onto the thing so I can look at the chat, because otherwise I will break the game. I did follow the steps, but apparently it has not worked. That's a shame. Classic Medieval 2 letting me down mechanically. Yeah, that's fine. This one might not be that long anyway. I might even just do a 1v1 with Uraki actually, because everyone else seems to be taking eons just to get into the game. Yeah, actually, I'm going to lock the vacant slots. He's playing the Easterlings as well, which is actually going to be fairly awkward for me because they've got a lot of AP. So this probably isn't going to go too well, but let's see. Easterlings as well don't have... I think I can probably outmuscle them in terms of sheer quality in melee, but it's going to be quite awkward to... Maybe that's... yeah, but if... Yeah, I'm gonna need to bring the Knights. That's non-negotiable, really. Got to really lean into that quality, but I'm also going to need to bring Riders of the Pass because they've got their Salamandrine Guard, and that could be real awkward for me if I let it run roughshod. Let's bring these. Skillful Swordsman is one of the best tools we have at our disposal, and we'll also go for a lot of these lads as well. Do I want... I don't know if I want Footmen of Amras because they're going to get rolled by the Falksmen if they get isolated. I think I don't want to spend too much on archers, but they will be useful because they've got the spears, so I can put them in the back and they won't be overly concerned. It's unorthodox for Feanor, but I'm going to have like a lot of humans, I think, with some of the really high-end damage-dealing elves right in the middle. I think that's probably the best way to handle this because of all their AP. Could go for that as well. Right, only 430 left. That's not a lot, but I could get another unit of half-strength javelin cavalry for exactly that price. Let's give it a go. It's a bit of a jank army, this, but I'm also going in without the armour upgrades on the defenders of Aglon, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem, to be honest, given all of the Falksmen. Okay. This could go sideways pretty quickly, because I'm relying on a core of not as much elite units as Feanor usually does. But I feel like in a 1v1 situation like this, which is not really how Silmarillion is balanced, on paper I don't think this is the best matchup for me. Ironically, Doriath probably would have been better to try and deal with the Easterlings, to be honest with you, because they can definitely match them for damage. You may also notice as well that Reshade has been turned off. Now that was actually in aid of making it so that the borderless window patch would work without crashing my game, but that has been kind of a waste of time, given the situation. Wow, that is quite the hill we have access to. What's the way up onto this hill actually? Is it back? No, that's not even. Doesn't even look like there's a... Well, I guess it's from the front, right? I suppose you can traverse that. I always think that sort of changes in colour of terrain means it's impassable, but I don't... Okay. Well, we're not going to use like the massive hill advantage because that's a bit scummy. Having said that, he can probably, if we don't put something up here at least, he's probably going to be able to take it from us. Okay. It depends on how far back he deploys as well, but I mean we're running with a lot of cav, to be honest, anyway, so we need at least this down here. Okay. Put our knights just in behind, because last thing I want is my general getting sniped by some hooligans. Of course, we could deploy a little further forward just to try and prevent... Well, no, we can't, because the line is right there. Okay. And this is actually quite an awkward map to try and deploy on and be fair. I could... Yeah, I won't put all my stuff on the hill. It's just not really in the spirit of things. Even if it is a damn fine hill. These archers are pretty good. They're not going to win many skirmish fights, but like I said, the Easterlings, I'm not even sure if they have access to like many like really long range units at all. I know they've got a decent amount of axe throwers, but I think the Easterlings are going to have to come towards us, to be honest. And that's something worth celebrating. I am going to surrender the initiative a little bit to him here, though. We've got a lot of missiles, which may prove to be a bit of an issue in the long run, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to defend absolutely all of it, but it does give us a decent amount of killing power. Right, we're definitely going to want to... Our Riders of the Pass are probably the most important thing here, honestly, because those Salamandrine Guard are really nasty, and I'm going to need something to... Okay. We'll have some swordsmen. Actually, we'll put the swordsmen just a little bit further back in and amongst our javelins, because they're definitely going to be a target. And the Accursed of Alcalonde. That's going to be a unit I don't think he can match with anything other than his Sons of Ulfang in melee. So I think we should be pretty golden there. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's kind of janky, considering I don't want to use the hill, but we'll It's very possible he's deployed on completely the other side of the map as well. So there's no real need to get too caught up in like really elaborate formations just for deploying in this very narrow section of the map. Hopefully when J-Monster arrives we can get a slightly larger scale game going. And then I'll play as Doriath. Of course I'm flying blind here because I can't look at the chat. The joys of what having a second monitor would bring. Oh, well, he's a little bit further back. Okay, let's go over here with you. Yeah. Okay, let's... I mean, there's really no need to actually be that aggressive at all, to be honest with you, in this situation. I feel as though, in terms of missile strength, we have the ability to be a little bit more cautious with what we dish out here, but we definitely need to have our damage dealers close to the front line, otherwise our shield bearers are going to get absolutely destroyed on the front. They are very, very nasty, but I don't quite know how nasty just yet. So I mean, by throwing my cavalry in here I could end up getting some pretty serious punishment dished out onto myself, but we'll see. At the very least, though, he's going to have spent a lot on his cavalry as well. Okay, let's not do that. See, the problem is going in on... Ooh, no, don't get that close. 41. Let's try shooting circle. I've never been the biggest fan of shooting circle, to be honest with you, but... Right, what have we got here? Warband of Lothlin? I don't think so. Warband, Wardens... Wardens might be worth going after, actually. They're fairly beefy. Okay. There's halberdiers in there as well, actually. I probably should have been going for them. Told you to shoot in circle them, but never mind. Ooh. Well, I mean, actually it might be just worth my time to sequester them back there for the time being. What are they? Eastron Horsemen? Oh, they're the cheap tat, aren't they? Probably shouldn't have been shooting them, to be honest with you, but no matter. What we're really doing is not really gaining too much of an advantage on one another here, honestly. Oh, there's a Salamandrine Guard. That's not good. I'm not really gaining too much here by just pulling this one unit of Warband over either. It's the cheapest tat they can bring. Don't know what I'm doing with my general out there either, but I mean, it's not likely to get too much damage done on them. Okay, I think it's about time we start rolling our main force forward, honestly. Oh, damn it. Okay. You back over here. And we'll start trying to plug in with some of our archers, because they really don't have anything other than their cavalry archers, I don't think. And charging into a bunch of Falksmen is going to just end up getting a lot of our stuff killed. If we can do a decent amount of damage right from the off, I'll feel a little bit better about things. And we still have our cavalry over there, which we can't afford to forget about. Okay. Stalkers of Thargelion are going to be an interesting one here as well. Warband of Lothlin. That is not what we want to be focusing in on. No, stop firing. Okay. I think we should be good actually. Stalks of Thargelion. Send you lot there. Just trying to keep it tight, make sure there's no obvious gaps in our line. And actually we're going to send the defenders, the Accursed of Alkalonde I should say, over that way. Okay, that's unfortunate. They've taken way, way too long. Bloody hell. Okay. Okay. Where the bloody hell are they? Oh, those are Eastron Marauders. They're easy to kill off actually as well. Okay. Chieftain's Honor Guard, eh? Right, Eastron Marauders are probably worth going and attacking actually. My general's been getting very slowly slaughtered, unfortunately for me. We definitely want to stay clear of them. But these lads, I think we can actually get away with going after. Oh, those are Sons of Ulfang. Let's get in there and just muck them up. They've got a lot of cavalry at their disposal, but honestly I'm not terribly... Well, maybe I should be a little bit worried actually. Yeah, my Accursed of Alkalonde have just been rolled by the Sons of Ulfang. That's unfortunate. I was expecting a little bit more from them there, if I'm being brutally honest, but alas. Okay, we're going to need to clatter into this front line and do some real damage there, because I think we're going to slowly but surely start to lose the flanks, which is not exactly what we want. This is where our Otorn are. Okay, good. See if we can't get a couple more of those on the go. Whatever happened to those guys? No, don't get stuck. Don't break. Otherwise, we are in absolutely massive trouble. Things are a little bit messy, honestly. Messier than I would have liked, for certain. My Riders of the Pass are winning. Well, kind of. The Salamandrian Guard has been doing some good business. I don't understand what they're doing, charging in there. Yeah, we're in trouble here. Chieftains, well, you had Chieftain's Honor Guard in here as well, I suppose. Hasn't really worked out in our favour. I was expecting a lot more from the heavy swordsmen here, honestly. They really didn't do damage anywhere near quickly enough on some of the units. And the Accursed of Alkalonde got ruined on the front line against the Sons of Ulfang, which isn't too surprising, but I was expecting them to perform a little bit better than they ended up doing. we're in massive trouble here. Don't think it's going to be all that likely that a victory is going to be forthcoming, unfortunately. Even if we win the front line, unfortunately, they've just got too much in other regards. Yeah, they're winning the front line now, which is the problem. And we don't have the cavalry power that we had at the start of the match, unfortunately. My knights got pulled around all over the place. Maybe I should have just tried to tank the Salamandrine Guard fire. I've heard some real horror stories about people trying to deal with them. But maybe it would have just been worth my time to just try and tank it with one of my stronger units. But I don't... Maybe, you know, I was worried about bringing Footmen of Amras, but they perhaps would have been one of the better choices to go for as well on the front line. Because it wasn't a particularly strong front line. Like, my Otorn are doing an immense job on the front line, given the fact that they're basically on their own, but I was expecting more Falksmen. Well, I say that I was expecting more Falksmen to be oh, don't know what happened there. I was expecting more Falksmen to go straight up the middle, really. And in the end, it didn't really work out in that manner. Okay, let's just go up here. I think the best we're going to be able to manage here, to be honest with you, is making things more awkward than it would otherwise be. We don't really have our Lancers anymore either. Salamandrine Guard. Well, we just routed a decent proportion of them. Are they back? Did they ever leave? Kind of hard to tell. Yeah, this really is more of a slow death than anything else. Warband of Lothan. Well, it's... The problem is I just don't think I have the numbers anymore, but I am playing as Feanor and I do still have elven units at my disposal. Ooh, need to get away from them. I'm still going to need a bit of charging action. That's fine, as long as he's going after them. Most important thing, honestly, is my front. Speaking of which, let's see if we can't get a charge off. I'm surprised he's not going for the back of my infantry line, actually. They are wide open and I can't really respond to it with anything. We are running low on cavalry at this point, though. And he is chasing us with Salamandrine Guard. Yeah, that's not good. Shield Bearers of Halavorn have run away. It wasn't actually as bad as it initially looked like it was going to be. But I think that's just because of my elite units in the core. Let's go for them. Let's go and throw my Riders of the Pass in against the Salamandrine Guard. Get out of there. It's hard to tell as well, when you're on low quality settings like this, it's kind of hard to gauge what sort of damage those axe throws are doing to you. I have quite a decent proportion of shielded units, honestly, so it might not actually have been as bad as I suspected it might have been. We are doing some Defenders of Aglon. Like, the problem is, like, I could maybe have overwhelmed the Salamandrine Guard, but I can't afford to not have my cavalry, as limited as it is at this point, charging in. Like, he could honestly probably finish me off if he just charges the back of my units with his horse archers at this point. Yeah, now he's doing it. Now I've got nothing really to answer him. That was remarkably close, actually, considering the early engagement's not going in my favour. The Otorn must have done pretty well on the front line. Yeah, this is it now. And there's still the Chieftain's Honour Guard to try and deal with as well, but fight's the bitter end. don't think the halberdiers were the cause, to be honest with you. I think it was just a lack of quality on the front overall. If I had some footmen of Amras, that may have gone differently. But that would have cost me in other areas. I don't actually think that my non-AP javelins ended up paying dividends, to be honest with you, but we'll have a look at the end. Probably getting slated in the comments. But yeah, this is as much as I can do at this point. Yeah, with defeat there.
No defeat is ours on this day. We have nothing to be ashamed of. But a cruel twist of fate that snatched victory from our grasp.
I wonder if it was chance or whether it was planning that got my accursed of Alcalonde into his Sons of Ulfang. Because they didn't do very well in that fight at all. If it was, then fair play to him. I had a much smaller army, which it definitely felt like that. He had a lot of low quality units. My cavalry sort of made it less embarrassing. The Mounted Company of Karufin did really well. Like, he couldn't, like, that was what I should have been doing with my knights. If I'd done that with my knights, I maybe would have won that, because they've got a much more impactful charge. But in the end, it didn't really work out that way. I should have been a little bit more on the front foot with my knights. In the end, I just threw them into a situation they had no chance of getting out of. What did the Otorn do? Yeah, 188, that's decent for them. Huntsmen of Thargelion, my archers did okay on the hill, but they were going after targets that they're going to be good against. Shield bearers, your cavalry was very painful. Yeah, it was, but it wasn't as painful as I needed it to be, considering the numbers. And I mean, 58 accursed kills for the accursed. I guess they did a little bit better, considering they were up against like some of the Easterling's decent Falksmen, but in the end, for a 1,150, I'd expect a little bit more bang for my buck from a heavy swordsman that would supposedly be good against AP infantry like that. Even if they would ultimately lose, I'd expect maybe a slightly better performance. Because my defenders of Aglon did very well, especially the one that was closer to the Otorn. The one that I sent flanking around with the accursed ultimately suffered the same fate. But there we go. We start off with a loss. Hopefully we can get a bigger game going after this. But it didn't crash at least, so I think we're on the road to success. Right, let's see if J Monster is ready. Right, let's see what the comments have said to me. So I suppose the stream is no fun without interaction. Yeah, I know, but I tried to make it. I thought it would work. Honestly, I followed the steps, but unfortunately, it's didn't work. I will get it working for the next one, but I'm going to need. Apparently, windowless border stuff. It's like Medieval 2 just fights you every step of the way for stuff like this. Can we get an Erebor buff? I just want Human's reaction to it. Yeah, an Erebor buff. Perfect. Just what I always wanted. What do you put your settings for 1v1s? I always put it on low just in case. Well, I mean, that is the safe way of doing it, but you can, for 1v1s, honestly, it's not quite so bad. If you do want to put your settings up a little bit higher. Really, it's for the bigger team games, which most people do want to be a part of, to be fair, that it becomes a little bit more of an issue. Right. Ooh. Yeah, the design of the Easterlings is really good. I really like the overall design of them because it's familiar. It definitely has those runic elements to them, but it's different enough to be interesting. I especially like the inclusion of all the Falks infantry. I think that gives them their own little flavour. And the Sons of Ulfang are just in general a really, really nice looking unit of infantry. I can see the chat now, yeah. It's when you're in a lobby and you alt-tab out, you sort of stop the game from moving for other players, and if you do it in the setup phase, it can balk the lobby to the point where you have to rehost. The borderless window is supposed to fix that, but apparently it has not, which is most annoying. But yeah, we'll try and get another game going in just a second and then play as Doriath. Honestly, if J Monster takes too much longer, then we'll probably have to knock his involvement in this one on the head. And just set up and keep flying solo, which I don't want to do, because I think the interaction with another player here is definitely much better. especially considering the fact that I can't see the chat myself, but he can. Favourite faction in Silmarillion to play? I do like Angband, I have to say. They're definitely a very aggressive faction. And they don't rely on some of the tools like Angmar do over in Reforged that are a bit of a crutch, I will admit. As much as I don't like facing off against such tactics, I also do quite like playing as a Syriand. Even if, kitey tactics like that are always a little bit frustrating to face off against. But it's part and parcel of what they're all about. They are satisfying to play as, but they are quite annoying to play against. And I do quite like, actually, from what little I've already played of them and seen of them, I do like the Philathron. They've got some good defensive cavalry. Their infantry is nice and varied. And their style is very nice as well, especially on their heavy units. J-Monster has disappeared into the ether. I can see the chat, yeah, Resflow. Until we set up another game. I mean, I'll give J-Monster, I think I'll give him another 5 minutes or so to get it together. If not, then I'll just have to carry on and play another game, I think, because there's only so long I can look foolish in front of everyone for. Okay. Yeah, it's the first age. Silmarillion is the first age of Middle-earth. Which is a lot of people, obviously, if you get deep into the Tolkien lore, obviously the Silmarillion is what a lot of people will point to. And yeah, Reforged is set in the Third Age around the War of the Ring. Or at least most of it is. To be fair, ever since like Numenor have been added and bits and pieces like that, it's been a little bit more fluid. But yeah, like it's definitely like from the end of the Second Age through to the War of the Ring is where Reforged has got all of its stuff from. Whereas Silmarillion is First Age. Main timeline of the Silmarillion book is set in the First Age, indeed. Yeah, if J-Monster is not able to make it tonight, then maybe we'll do another one in the coming days and give him a bit more of a chance to arrive. Maybe something that's a little bit more set in stone, so we actually nail down a time that both of us have to be here for. Otherwise, it can be a little bit awkward considering I'm in the UK and he's in Canada. But that's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. Doesn't seem like anyone is taking up the mantle of trying to host. I mean, this is why I kind of wanted J-Monster here, to be honest with you. Makes things just a little bit easier. Okay. Gervais has done it, okay. Of course, the problem here is I would join the lobby right away, but if I do that, I'll probably balk it by tabbing out. No, I wasn't going to play Reforged in this one. I might do that next time. What I might do for the next stream is do Reforged, and maybe if Eclipse is hosting one of his games, I'll get in on that, because that's always a good time. He's had a bit of rotten luck actually with crashes recently, but hopefully that won't be the case, because he usually post up some really good large scale games. Next stream, I'm not entirely sure. It will probably be within the week though. I would say because I also want to make sure that I keep up my recording schedule. So I would say probably a good day would maybe be Friday. I think that would be a good one. It's always good to do it around the weekend because people are more available, I find. Well, Sunday is fine, but also because obviously it's ironic actually because it would have been probably a good idea if I started streaming earlier on in lockdown when everyone had a lot more free time on their hands. But now that lockdown is sort of coming to, well, with all the lockdown stuff mainly out of the way now, a lot of people are sort of back to their regular schedule, or at least something resembling a regular schedule. Within the week, especially when time differences are getting into becoming more of a factor. That is a bit unfortunate. But it will give him just a little bit more time, and then we'll just have to plough on. He is the one who encouraged me to start. Without him, I assumed that meant he was a little bit more imminent than it's turned out that he was, but I'm surprised actually that this many people are watching me from the start. Like 30 viewers is nothing to sneeze at for a stream. Like, it is not bad at all, considering I'm still stumbling over myself in terms of making everything work properly. But we'll get there. It's all just a matter of getting the right workflow. And honestly, Medieval 2 is probably one of the more awkward games to stream in this fashion as well. Just because of all the intricacies that you've got to get set up in order to actually make it work. Without issues, which obviously I'm still going through. Okay, I will join the lobby now, so I'll have to avert my eyes from the chat, otherwise I'll ruin everyone's day by crashing the lobby. But we will play as Doriath. Oh, no response from host. Be interesting to see how many players we get actually. So we've got... Okay. So we've got 5. Alrighty. Good v evil would be nice. There's enough evil factions in the game that you can do good v evil a little bit more easily in Silmarillion now as well. I've been told to be Doriath. Okay, we just need one evil player and we should be good to go. Do we have another player though? I suppose these issues are going to be more apparent in Silmarillion just because obviously it's in alpha and there are less people that have it. Okay, let's try and build an army. So actually I can find out who I'm going to be up against right now, and that is I'm once again going to be up against the Easterlings. Okay. Well, at least we now know that, well, we're never going to be able to match the Easterlings for mobility with Doriath because we only have access to 2 cavalry units, one of which is horribly weak to horse archers. The other of which is actually, you know, it's shielded and is a melee cavalry unit, but I'm going to spend my time just running after. Let's see. Well, yeah, I think I was going to go for both of these anyway, though. Armor-piercing archer. They're really good in melee, though, as well. Holy crap. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to put my general, though, anyway. Hold up. Oh yeah, he's Feanor and he's in the middle against Angband. That's going to be quite an interesting thing for him to deal with, because normally mobility is their whole thing. Yeah, we do have access to some axe throwers now as Doriath as well. He says cheap cav, but I mean they are not that much cheaper than the shielded melee cavalry, honestly. They've got a good charge, but I think what we're going to do, we're definitely going to get the Donath, because they are absolute monsters against armoured infantry. And the Easterlings do have some of that. The Lothlin units are fairly beefy. Right, the Easterlings. I mean, the differences in price are next to nothing, really. But we're definitely going to need... Well, we will get axe throwers, because we can actually go toe-to-toe with their axe throwers fairly nicely. Oh, a full complement of Doriath. I mean, that makes us a bit one-note, but it should unify our focus somewhat. Is it really worth getting some... I mean, they're really cheap, those two, just having those 2 units of archers there. They're half strength, but the Easterlings really don't have anything that can... The thing is, I need to bring some archers, otherwise their Salamandrine Guard can do what they want to me. This is actually kind of an interesting choice to make, because if I don't spend enough on... I don't want to have 3... Well, maybe Warns of the Girdle wouldn't be so bad. I'm going to go for some beefier cavalry as well. Right, let's see. AP. Is it... Warriors of Region I don't think are going to be as useful against the Easterlings. Like the Lothlin units, fair enough, but... Well... I want to have some manner of defensible front line. They've got a significantly better shield as well. Okay. That should be a pretty decent front line, and then go for some axemen, and then we have enough for 1 more unit as well. We want just the 1 unit of cavalry, which could be a little bit awkward, but I think just having just that little bit of extra mobility. I think having the yeah, I'm aware of how the game works. I haven't been living in a hole while making my videos. I do know that axes are better at attacking. But I think going for the extra survivability against the Lothlin units, because I mean I've got the heavy axemen anyway, and the Donath and axe throwers for dishing out the damage close up. I mean, until we get another... I've got all the time in the world until we get another player anyway. But I think, yeah... He wants me to get the marksman. See, the problem with getting the marksman, though, is... I mean, if I'm going to get the marksman, then I'm going to drop the Wardens of the Girdle. because I'm not having 4 units of archers. But they're the split shots as well. I mean, the main purpose I would have for them, honestly, would be shooting the Salamandrine Guard. Which, I mean, fair enough. I mean, I'm not spending my money on much else. I've got 1,000 left. 1,000 left to spend. I could either go for one... I could even go for some artillery. Oh no, they're not the split shots, are they? That's the Nargothrond units. The Marksmen of Rhegion are the other ones. You are quite correct. That's tempting, honestly, but I don't think I'm going to need to tempt the Easterlings to come towards me anyway, to be honest with you. I think they're probably going to be... Well, they have to be very aggressive, because their archers are just not going to be able to deal with me at long range, even with a relatively small archer force like this. They're not going to be able to match me at long range, so they're going to have to come towards me and try and deal with me that way. I think we need more on the front line, honestly, looking at this. Could go for some more shield bearers. A couple more small units that we could use maybe in the back to prevent cavalry charges in reserve. Might be a good way to handle things. And then 310 for some extra spear host to the girdle. Perfect. Well, not perfect necessarily. Yeah, I know, the Eastlings' only archers are on horseback. They can field quite a lot of them though, honestly. It's to the point where if they really wanted to, they could probably use them in exactly the same way as like foot archers. It wouldn't necessarily be the most efficient thing to do, but they could. Which means you can't just completely neglect the fact that you might be in a skirmish fight at some point. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. I mean, I don't really care too much about being stream sniped, to be honest with you. It says more about the player that's doing that than me, if that's actually happening. But yeah. I think this is probably about as good as we're going to manage. We've got a few... Okay, that's good. Steward of Dale, perfect. We have a game on our hands. Of course, like, this is also a map that none of us really knows what it looks like, so in the end we might end up sort of... the full Doriath army. Doriath, I think, have a little bit more in common with Lothlorien, I think, than Imladris. They definitely have that more aggressive edge to their melee stuff. Like they're not as tanky as Feanor or, to give the Reforged example, Imladris are, but they have just that little bit of extra aggression in melee, especially when it comes to armor piercing. Obviously, Feanor's AP is found in other ways, whereas Doriath, a little bit more of the analog approach for them with heavy macemen and axemen. So we need to be very careful of the Sons of Ulfang, but I think we have the tools and the quality to deal with them with a force like this, honestly. We've got a lot of Rhegion units. Wonder if we can... Nope, that's not going to be possible, is it? Is there no upgrades? No, even the cheapest upgrade costs 40. Have a look. Oh yeah, so they've got all 3 of the evil factions. I am the one against the Easterlings, or at least, based on the shape of the map, we could all end up being funneled into a rather narrower spot. So I'm ready. I think actually Doriath is one of the factions I would not mind facing Angband with, or at least I'd mind less, because you can definitely deal with their big monsters a little bit more, but I think, based on what I've heard from J-Monster, I think Artorias has got a different way of playing Angband, where he foregoes having the big monsters, which is the main thing you think of when you think of Angband, and instead goes for a more traditional Horde of Orcs approach. Which, I mean, that I think actually Doriath would struggle with a little bit more, perhaps, because being better at dealing damage often means you do lose then a little bit at keeping yourself alive, which obviously against a horde is not so great. But these are minor differences, to be honest with you. Like, that's part of the reason why I went for swordsman instead of axeman. Oh, for bloody hell. Well, now we're going to need another one. The classic experience. We're going to spend most of our time looking at the menus, unfortunately. This might give us a little bit of interesting to see who King Amar joins. If we can get an 8th, then fine, but we'll get there in the end, I'm sure. I think we've been in the menus for about 20 minutes now, which is part of the reason why I was actually always a little bit reluctant to do streaming, if I'm honest, because I know that this is kind of the classic experience when you're trying to get online games going. Oh, for crying out loud. Alright, we'll do a siege instead. Oh, I've accidentally backed out of the multiplayer thing. Now I'm rattled. Well, this is going to be... hopefully people don't agonise for hours over their army choice. Well, actually, this is a good opportunity to check back in on the chat. How's everyone doing? Might want to cavalry units. Well, I mean, the salamander... Well, it's all a moot point now, because I kind of doubt that that's going to be the kind of play we'll see in a siege, but the thinking there was the cavalry was really just there to be in the way of Rune's salamandering guard. I was going to be a little bit more defensive and try and utilise my skill. Okay. Now we shall join. Easterlings are kind of an awkward faction to play against, actually, because they're heavily incentivized to get up into your face really, really quickly. This is when no one knows. Oh, come on, guys, please. Team 1 has the settlement. Okay. Oh, what are these guys even doing? Come on, guys. Sort yourselves out. What are you even doing? Come on, it's not difficult. One of you up into team 1. It's like herding mice. There we go. Perfect. So we're going to be attacking an evil settlement as Doriath. Right, that changes the complexion of things pretty substantially, to be honest with you. It means that we're going to want to... Well, for a start, actually, it means that we have... Right, hold on. $45.52. Right. Anyway, we'll start building our army, and whatever money we get will be what we end up with. So... I think maybe we only go for maybe 1 elite, and I think if we can keep the Cuthalim, or the Cuthalim, till the end, when they can't really respond to it with anything, like that represents a massive amount of power, because you've got armor-piercing projectiles and they're strong in melee. There aren't that many of them, but I think we're onto a winner with that one. We definitely want all of them, because they're really useful in a siege. Want a couple of them, one of them. So that'll be our ranged contingent. We're probably not the best, actually, faction for sort of trying to get into a skirmish, but I don't think we have much of a choice there. Okay, and now for infantry. Okay, so we've got a pretty decent amount there. 600 remaining. Oh, if I had 20 more, I could get a full unit of spear host. That's a shame. Well, I could go for a detachment of something. Detachment of spear host, and then upgrade the attack on a lot of my units, which I think I will do, actually. Let's go for these. We'll bring them in late on and really give them the business with all of our axes. Oh, they've got cheaper upgrades, actually. Cheaper upgrades on our axe units. I'd almost completely forgotten about that. Does that apply to these guys as well? No, it doesn't. Okay, well, let's just go for all of our higher numbers units for our upgrades, and our general's bodyguard, actually. I think this is the future. Okay, that'll do. I've got my settings down reasonably low. I tried to keep them a little bit higher so it didn't look like complete... Like, if you have it down on the lower settings, the game does not look great. So I've tried to put it up a little bit higher, but not that much. Hopefully that doesn't cause the game to go too haywire. I wasn't actually expecting to do a siege, so this could take a little longer. In fact, this is actually... the map should be immediately noticeable, because I was actually having a little look at the maps earlier on, and the Palace of Ulfang is the map where it's the haven with the effectively the makeshift boats, where they look kind of like islands, but they're in like the shape of boats. So I don't. Well, I'm going to try and avoid going across that bridge up in the corner, to be honest with you, because I cannot stand moving across bridges. We're gonna do what we can. We're gonna make it work. Okay, that's what he's doing, is it? I'm interested to see that in action, actually, especially here, because it sounds like the sort of thing that would be really good in a more standard setting, but where they can all up against you and sort of form a nice defence, I'm not sure it's going to be... Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will be doubly effective there because they can't really escape from it. We'll see. I just feel as though archers are really the Achilles heel of that. Okay, Doriath. I really like the way Doriath look. I've always liked axe-heavy factions. I've turned the vegetation down to lowest, if that wasn't immediately apparent by the state of those bushes. Okay, Steward of Dale is in the lobby, so hopefully we can avoid the lag. He's loading in, which is a good sign. I'd be interested to see actually as well if the if streaming takes a toll on bigger lobbies like this. It might do. My internet is okay, but it's not. That was another reason why I was maybe a little bit hesitant. Okay. And we can deploy. I mean, I'm not going to do so because it's a bit of scumbaggery to deploy literally on the defensive wall, but I could. Right, so we've got Finarfin. Right, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my forces. I know that Gervais is listening, so I mean there's... Well, I've got a way in there. Maybe I won't split my forces. Maybe I'll just go... I'll just follow my own path. Right. It's definitely going to be quite an interesting experience. Like, being on the attack when you're the slightly more quality-focused armies is always a delicate balancing act. Okay, I'm gonna... I will actually split some of my forces off. I will... what I'm gonna do is... How many archers? I mean, I don't think... Based on what I heard, I don't think Artorius will have... Well, he actually has got some good archers. Okay. Maybe he doesn't need them quite so much, but I will send the vast bulk of my forces with him, I think. Maybe Iraqi needs help. I mean, Iraqi, who is he playing as? He was playing as Doriath as well, wasn't he? Okay. Change of plan once again. No, he's playing as Feanor, I can see from the red colour scheme from this far away. Okay. I'll have my axe throwers follow Artorius in, I think, because I think that will be the most useful thing for him to have near him, because it's not something that he really has. Oh, come on. Are you serious? Why would the game do this to me? I really don't like that glitch. That's one of the more annoying ones, where you're in the middle of your deployment phase and it just decides, nope, you're done now, mate. We're just gonna deploy you where you are. I mean, it's not so catastrophic. My army's still largely together, but I mean, it can be really devastating if you're, especially defending in a siege, and you're like spread out all across your settlement, especially one as large as this. Like there you can see the boats at the back. Last time I played on this map, of course, I was up in this corner primarily, and my army met its demise near this little amphitheatre. But this time we're going to be moving in from the front. Yeah, the walls are... It's going to be an issue. Like, someone is going to have to take the brunt of the damage here. And I don't think Doriath is the best one to do that, really. Like, I've got some good shielded units, but I don't really have the robustness that is required. Whereas Feanor and Finarfin are a little bit more, a little bit tankier. And who was... There's another Feanor army over here. So 2 Feanor, 1 Doriath, 1 Finarfin. I'm probably the least durable of this bunch. Feanor and Finarfin are very, very tanky for different reasons, but Finarfin especially is a very defensive faction by nature. One of those, I mean, just having access to pikes though, to be honest. Like, if we can get to the late game with a single unit of bridge wards intact, we're golden. We're going to win. But that is going to be easier said than done, to be honest with you, because I don't think Artorias has... I mean, if he goes in completely without his pikes from the start, then we're going to need to deploy them sooner than I think we'd probably like, unless I go in and be the pawn sacrifice, which I'm not against, but I was going to split my army. Some of it go over and help. Yeah, my damage is the highest, definitely. But the damage is going to do no good if they can focus me down, because most of my damage is going to come from stuff like my shock infantry, which is going to be public enemy number 1 to the defenders if it gets into range. Right, actually, I can still deploy my stakes though, can't I? Yes, I can. That'll give me a little bit of extra protection should they come barreling out with cavalry, but I don't think they will. The Easterlings and Angband aren't really encouraged to do that. Tollingawahoth maybe slightly more, but it would be quite risky for them to do that. Especially against, again, like, I'm probably the least equipped to deal faction-wise with a massive sally out. Finarfin have just got tons and tons of spears, and Feanor have got their own cavalry. Right, okay. I will start rolling across a whole bunch of my infantry over here, as well as my archers actually, so I will give a large amount of support over that way, and I will also support Artorias in his endeavours with a bunch of these units, depending on what they want from me, of course. I'm going to keep my Kuthalim over with Artorias as well, just because he's the most likely to actually... Ooh, actually, there's some cavalry over there, isn't there? Some Easterling cavalry at that. Alright. Spears it is. Well... what do we do here, then? The big question is, do we have Feanor cavalry with us? I don't think we do. We've got more of a just sort of outright muscle army here from Iraqi, and the cavalry from the other source, or other potential source, is a bit too far away from us, to be honest with you. But I think we should be okay. I think it's a storm that can be weathered. And ultimately it is Easterling cavalry, so it's not like we're in danger of getting absolutely clattered by some Thrangshik Wolfborn, at least not immediately. There's some units over there, over on the lighthouse. He's got an insurance policy. It's actually going to be a fairly lengthy one, I think, just because we're going to have to constantly worry about that. I mean, he is moving in. Okay. I will... and the skirmishes are going to be a bit of a problem, I will concede, but... well, I mean, I don't think it's too bad. Right, yeah, those... okay. I mean, the onus is going to be on us to move forward, and it looks like Iraqi is already doing that. I mean, I will follow him in as soon as I am able, but I'm not going to run my units over there, so... because I'm splitting my army, I kind of, by my very nature, I can't really be the one taking point. Those shield bearers are going right on into those wretches. Has he got reinforcements? Yeah, he does have reinforcements. He's got huntsmen nearby. Okay. I think we're okay. The Salamandrine Guard, I think, are actually coming for me, so I will just pick up the pace a little bit. I will, in fact, run my units. I think... but if he does come from those units, I've got all my archers in there, so I can really do some pretty hefty damage, I think, on units. Ooh, Cuthalin, what are you doing? You're being very slow. Don't want to have you set upon by the Salamandrines. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to wait until Artorius starts beginning his assault in earnest, and then we'll start feeding in some axe throwers to give him a bit of help. I think he's going to need to use his Wardens of Nargothrond to help zone out that cavalry, though, because that is going to prove to be a real pain in the neck, I think, but it's also one that's kind of unavoidable. I don't want to use them, but I will use my Cuthalin if I'm forced. And then over here we have our units running. Yeah, the cavalry's coming over here now, isn't it? Right. Okay. Well, Iraqi is being... He sent in those shield bearers, but I'm not sure why, because... Like, they were always going to get absolutely destroyed going in on their own against that amount of Angband units. So that's not a particularly great start, but we'll see if we can make it work. My units were only ever really good... Well, I mean... Do we really want to plough in with everything? Look at that, I mean... Could try and use the catapult, I suppose. I'm trying to keep an eye on what Artorius is doing as well, because I think what I'm going to have to do is I think I'm going to have to pick up the pace here and start trying to get into position to help him out a little bit more, with a little bit more urgency, because if we start losing ground against Angband this early, it's not going to be great for us. And his archers are pretty much wide open to trolls, which we certainly don't want. Right, we don't want skirmish mode either. Right, is Artorius moving in? He is, okay. Okay. Salamandrine Guard might just completely ignore us and instead go after Ammar, which might not be the worst thing in the world for us, to be honest with you, because last thing we need is more of this. Okay, we're going to have to start shooting with them. The catapult can start doing some real work, though, if those Angband troops are blobbed up. Problem is, those shield bearers aren't going to last too much longer. Those troll guard are starting to fall. Okay. Well, I've got my units in place, so if they are required, I'm just going to get them behind a bit more cover. Okay, he's rolling in. Halberdiers of Lothland would be absolutely scrumptious for my Axemen of the Girdle. In fact, that's exactly what we're going to do right now. It will force him to, at the very least, it will force him to move. We'll have a look back over and see what the Ooh, they're getting shot by something. What was that? Hishtbukraz hunters firing back at us, and our archers are pretty lightly armoured. Okay. Okay, let's get them out of there. We're just going to go in, I think, and put some real pressure on right now, because otherwise we're just... If I sit here for too long, my army of all things is going to get a lot of damage dealt to it. That's not ideal. Need to... Okay, if Artorius doesn't want to move in as well, I'm going to have to be the one to sort of give a screen to my... He's moved in some of his units. He's moved in his bridge wards, but... I don't know about that one, Chief. Let's just go in on those Halberdiers of Lothland. we're going to have to go in. What happened to our other unit of archers? Man, they got... only against a basic unit of archers, they got some pretty hefty damage dealt to them there. Alright, I'll rely on Iraqi typing something in the chat if he needs my support for anything. Because I can go all in at any moment, should he require it. He's from Marauders. It's not a brilliant sight. Okay, you pull back. Warband of Lothlin. Okay, you go over there. Sod it. Okay, I really want to avoid the Ooh, that's not good. I can see those Balrogs on the approach. Okay, well in that case, I'm going to hope that Artorias has got what it takes to see them off, honestly, because I'm not sure I'm going to be all that useful against Balrogs. Most of my units are sort of more basic in nature here. Ooh. Yeah, the defensive position is real nasty here. We're just going to have to sort of try and tank that, honestly. But I've got everything else on the way forward now. Okay. What's going on over here? Footman of Amras, victory seems certain. Gijak Skaraz, Wolfguard. I'm half tempted actually to commit this, just one more unit of these boys. Just to help speed things along, because I think they could be absolutely glorious on that front line. But it's over here where things are moving and shaking. Speaking of which, he's actually pulled back his units, interestingly enough. Okay. Well, I mean, I've got a lot of the stuff that I had over here in at this point. A lot of my units are just sort of spraying and praying. And my axe throwers are actually doing the business here. My infantry's in a little bit of trouble because it's starting to get crushed in on, but Artorias is on hand. And I do have my half-strength spearmen on the way as well. Okay, let's get in on them, because we're going to need a bit of extra AP on the front, I think. Because they're starting to have a bit of an impact. We're still firing in with our poison arrows. He's got Defenders of Aglon. Yeah, I think that fight over there is actually bubbling along quite nicely. The only reason this one over here has maybe been a little bit more awkward is the addition of all of these missiles. But that's also true for us. We've been doing a pretty good job, honestly, of doing some pretty decent damage ourselves. I don't know what these guys are doing. They're on fire at will. We still have our Kuthalim as well. So we do still have reserves. What are they doing? Oh, have they been charged? Oh yeah, they have. Okay. That's unfortunate. Okay. We're going to have to turn around and... we're actually probably best off just mobbing them here, just to try and stop them. Like, I didn't really have any, actually, with horse archers in our back lines. No, we'll keep our axes there, actually. There's no need to get too antagonised with this, but those poison arrows actually also did a nice chunk of morale damage there. Okay, what's going on over here? Oh. Gervais, no. Not like this. Of course, that could equally be me because I'm streaming. Okay, we've got spears. We have got units that need killing in many different areas. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this, honestly. We just need to keep That engagement over there actually will progress as it will. I think Artorias taking the lead just with my units to fire at will, perhaps. Just fire at something. He's firing at my shielded units, actually, which I'm not that concerned about. Unless he's going after my axes. Oh, they're going it. Well, yeah. Can I send them in? No, I don't think I will send them in just now. Well, I mean, again, like marksman of Region. Yeah, for now, I think we're fine. Those horse archers were chased off. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. These axe throwers don't really want to fire, do they? Ooh, Sons of Ulfang. That is a unit we need to get rid of right now. That's a unit we need to get rid of yesterday, actually. Just fire everything we have into that area of the battle now. The bridge ward should be able to keep them pinned down fairly well, but yeah, look at this. Like our infantry is just superior to theirs 1v1. We still got to keep an eye out for that over there, but I think we're probably okay. We actually haven't seen much of that fight over there yet. There are wargs. That's something to definitely keep an eye on. These poison arrows, they may be actually small in number, but they will actually be really useful now because they will still apply the same morale debuff, even if they are depleted. Ironshod Legionnaires. No, yeah, we can afford to be patient there. I want to throw more stuff in to try and break the back of this, but there's no need to yet. This over here, meanwhile. I wonder if we can get in a little... No, I wanted to save my Kuthalin, didn't I? Right, this might be a bit of a problem, though. Normally I would not recommend actually shooting into these things, but... In fact, I'm going to follow my own advice there as well. Javelins doing the thing. Ironshot Arbalists on the way across. Don't know if they're out of ammunition or not. We are starting to just creep around the lines there, though. So yeah, this fight is... I mean, the Balrogs are going to be a bit of a concern because monsters like that are going to be pretty good against pikes, which is obviously going to be one of the main concerns over here. But we are firing. We're firing our axes. I think just firing our axes into anything at this point and just doing the business is going to be what we want to do. Right, actually as well, I think just to hasten things along, we are gonna commit forward some axe line infantry just to add a little bit more bite, because Feanor, they don't go down easily, but they're not going to be as good as us at dealing the damage that we want on that front line. I don't really have anything else infantry wise that I can commit to actually help the situation here, which is kind of a shame, to be honest with you. All those spears, I mean, shield bearers, spear host of the girdle, they've caused a bit of a hole, but like there's nothing there to flood in and do any damage to us, so I'm actually okay with this. More than I would otherwise be. Okay. Let's go over here. Just get a little bit closer. It's a little bit more awkward than I would like, honestly, to get my axes into position, my axe throwers, but to the point actually where I think I might just pull them back and have done with it. Meanwhile, over here, he's going to try and point blank shoot into them. Bouncer forces is evenly matched, so it is probably about time that we get a shift on here and commit some of our units in, because so far we've only really committed one unit of infantry and helped out with some archer fire. But with some cavalry fire, or cavalry, catapult fire in there, oh, that's actually really unlucky for them, to be honest with you, because they just hit point blank into their own men there with the mangonel. But I'm not going to be deterred, I'm just going to keep moving in. Okay. Infantry, in we go. There's nothing really on this front line that I'm actually all that concerned about, to be honest with you. I haven't seen much of Toll and Gowerhoth yet. But they may have been just in and amongst the Angband units. They're much better at being... Oh, look at that. Yeah, they're starting to get some routing on their lower tier units. Right, we'll keep the rest back because otherwise we're going to be in some serious trouble. At the hands of that mangonel. They are in melee with something. They're in melee with Scarahai trappers. That's not brilliant. Okay, you get in there. Just got to keep using our axe throwers to good effect. Just keep supporting the push. Kind of difficult to tell if my axe throwers are really doing the business or not, but we'll know by the end of the battle. So things seem to be progressing quite well here, but I think a lot of that is down to it being really quite difficult to deal with a pike block when it's pushed towards you and you don't have much to answer it with. Scarahai trappers are going to be a fairly... I mean, we're just going to throw in some missiles here. Like, we're keeping some missiles back in reserve, but not... No, we're not being stingy. Okay, what's going on the front line? That looks like a bit of a point-blank hit that hit our infantry there, but it's honestly not that bad because it looked like there was a bit of a rout going on. I don't really want to commit much more else forwards though. There's a potential problem over there with a push coming in from Ironshod Legionnaires, but there's defenders of Aglon over there, so we should be alright, to be honest with you. At least for now. What's going on over here? Oh, they're in melee. That's wouldn't be my first choice. Ooh, there's Ironshod Ravagers on the way forward. But Artorius is going to react to that very quickly. Yeah, the Finarfin pikes are really good. Well, they're the only pike unit in the game. So it makes sense, really, that they are very strong, to be honest. Just by their nature. There will be more pikes that are added into the game, of course. But for now, Finarfin have got a monopoly on that, which is very, very deadly. There are still Balrogs there. We could claim the high ground here. There really isn't anything over here. Yeah, let's go for it. The Nobles of Balar, I believe, are a two-handed spear unit. So they have more in common with halberdiers than pikes. At least that's what J-Monster told me. He told me that they could be outranged. Which means they're not pikes. Because the defining characteristic of a pike, of course, is its range. Phalanx formation alone does not a pike make. Okay. Fire into them. Let's go and have a look at what's going on over here. Just make sure everything's not falling apart. Trollguard of Gothmog are on the way in now, so I think now might be the time to commit forward the old AP Axeman. Again, like, as much as the Mangonel is a danger, actually he's got his Defenders of Aglon in there, there's no need to commit forward just yet. If the other unit of Trolls goes in, then I will, but for now... Yeah, Finarfin, we're pushing through. Making it happen. Scarahai Blood Drinkers, yes please. My Axe Throwers should do very nicely against them. We've got another unit now that's freed up though, that we can use. Let's just cover things. There's no need for us to be the heroes here. Artorius is more than capable of doing that for us. And those Blood Drinkers are going to be... I think part of the problem over here for the Easterlings was they were able to do some good damage to us on the approach, but after that we had the muscle in melee and we also had some good supporting tools. And Balrogs would be good against... Who want me to shot the Ash Priest? The Ash Priest is something I would very much not like to be near me. Oh, hello. I don't know if Iraqi can see that, but his Otorn are shaken. They're getting shot by the Finarfin units. I will give him a bit of a hand, I think, with that. Yeah, Finarfin, I think, probably the easiest faction to play in the game at the moment. I don't know if I would call them... Well, I mean, it's a difficult one to judge, really, because I'm not really as well versed in the balance, the state of the balance, as most other things. But they are definitely one of the easier factions to play, just because they have a very clear focus. They have no cavalry for a start, so you know what they're all about just from that. Like, they're going to be quite static. Ooh, they're out of ammunition, which means I have another unit of infantry. Wasn't really much point in me putting the Kuthalim up here, so I will now bring them back down. But I will follow him along. Like, that's really all I've been doing so far in this battle. Okay, yeah, now the Salamandrine Guard are going to be going back the other way, which is what we want to be seeing. Okay, I think now we can start to be a bit more of a mover and shaper over here.
The battle is very much in our favour. Victory will be ours.
Yeah, Scarahai Longfangs are going to have nary a prayer against my warriors, unfortunately for them. Let's flood in. Archers. We still have some ammunition, to be fair, as well. Let's try and get in over there. In fact, we still have all of our ammunition and our marksmen, really. We took maybe a couple of pot shots at the wargs earlier. Yeah, we're in a pretty good position going into the late game here. We've still got quite a bit of our ammunition left in all of our key stuff. I've still got my Kuthalim ammunition. I've still got a full unit of axe throwers. I've still got my marksmen of Region. My infantry's a little bit... My infantry's damaged, but not as much as it could have been. Yeah, there go the Scarahai Longfangs. That was a fairly instant impact there. And now I think what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to start shifting my infantry over here to start trying to help out our friend over on the other side. Waffles, who is blocking access to Ammar's army. In fact, I think Ammar's probably had the hardest time out of it. I'm going to start moving some stuff over there to give him a bit of a hand. Might not necessarily be the a fully clever thing to do, to be honest with you, because if I get over there and there's nothing left of him, then I will have effectively wasted my time. Waffles is turning around to meet me. Excellent. A fight it will be. What is this? Fishbook Raz Hunters getting in my way? Guardians of the Iron Crown. Let's have a look here. Yeah, we're doing very well, actually. Over here, Ammar. Ammar's struggling a little bit, but I think he had more of Tolin Gawahoth over here as well as some Angband units, so it was always going to be a little bit more tricky for him, but all we need to do is just keep up the pressure now. I've got some AP. Spears of the Iron Crown aren't going to be sufficient to deal with that. And then it's just a case of me following Artorius over here wherever he may go. So yeah, we'll just pull in our units over there. What have we got still out here?
Very much in our favor. Victory will be ours.
Gonna be a little bit on the lookout for any more mounted units that may be maybe making their presence felt, but I wouldn't. Sword host of Region. Yeah, you can see over here. This is the problem I think with that Ammar has been having. He's had Tolin Gawahoth's wargs in his back as well as the Salamandrines, which has been a bit more of a concern for it. Like, obviously getting cavalry charged in the back when you're trying to commit to an assault is quite difficult, so I think that was the key here. I mean, I probably wouldn't pull these Guardians of the Iron Crown back, otherwise that entire patch of units is going to be destroyed, but it's looking like they're going to lose anyway, actually. What is Artorius doing? He is moving, so we shall as well. They're trying to pull back, I think, to a final stand over there near the palace, which, I mean, fair enough. But we shall just continue to move in as we are, I think. Okay, get in there. Yeah, we arrived, I think I think they maybe would have won the infantry fight over here as well, actually, Feanor, but that cavalry maybe would have proven to be more of a problem for him if he hadn't. Yeah, we're flooding in now. Those units won't be allowed to leave. He still has his Regiment of Renown unit of wargs as well, as they are. The Vorbak Gaz Utar. That's definitely not the right way to say that. But I'll get it. The rest of the Black Speech for Tollingawahoth I've managed to get a hold of. Don't really have any spears over here, unfortunately, to deal with those boys. I've got some heavy axemen, which might be good if we can tie them down. Honestly, though, I don't think it's too much of a concern. I think we just... I mean, they're going to try and bottle us up onto the bridges. But like I said, I don't think that's going to... I don't think it's going to help them as much as maybe they would want it to, because... Yeah, we're good. Because we still have so many of our ranged tools at our disposal. Ooh. Want to be a little bit careful with these units here. Got them a little bit separated. Yeah, 3 decent pikes. We've got... The axe throwers should be pretty good in that situation. My Kuthalun can pick and choose a really high priority target and blast them, which should be good. But I guess I don't really have much of a choice, because if they'd stayed where they were, they would have just got rolled up. Like, this really is the best option for them at this point, but I think the damage might be done. We have a fairly substantial lead, unless it's the sort of situation where Rangers would help, but of course Assyrian are the only faction that have Rangers. Look at all of this. Got a bunch of depleted units. Catapult is always going to be a little bit up and down there. But yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, that outer layer of that particular settlement can be pretty nasty. But I think my cav was useless, too slow. King Ammar is on our side, is he not? Was he the Feanor army that was over here? He was, yeah. Well, yeah, that is the one thing. Like, the lighter cavalry, the wargs of Tollingawahoth, can definitely give you the runaround, especially when they're backed up by the Salamandrines, who are probably the choice horse archer in the game at the moment. At least the general opinion of them is very, very high. So that's a pretty deadly combination, which is probably why he fared the worst out of everyone. Also, to be fair, me in the supporting role, I was able to help through the middle and over on the other side, whereas I didn't have anything helping Ammar, so that's another reason why perhaps he didn't do quite as well. There's also these units over here, which he has, which he did have up on the lighthouse, which these are... Are they the Sons of Ulfang? No, they're the Pillagers, aren't they? There's too many of them to be the Sons of Ulfang. Could have brought 2 units of them though, so he's got some axe throwers. He's got some units coming in from behind, but there's nothing really to be too worried about with that, I don't think. We can just leave some units behind. Yeah, I think... I mean, if you get into melee with the pikes, and because they're the only pikes in the game at the moment, it's going to be difficult to deal with. But I would have thought that the Easterlings would have been one of the best placed factions to deal with the pikes, because they've got access to quite a lot of axe throwers. And the Balrogs were in there. So I would have thought that, well, I guess the spears can absorb a lot of the damage from the axe throwers, huh? Yeah, that is pretty strong then, isn't it? Yeah, it must have been the spears then, with their shields in the way, blocking all that damage. Which is kind of a shame, because but that's part of the nature of it. If you send forward your pikes unsupported, they can get shot by anything, I guess, so... That's the nature of the beast. But I think in this situation, considering the lead we already have, I think it... well, I mean, that is something that we definitely need to be a little bit concerned about. Because they can be absolutely lethal, but I mean, I think I have just a tool for dealing with them, though. Unfortunately for the opposing team. But I've definitely been on the receiving end of those boys. But yeah, good supporting tools in this faction for Doriath on this occasion, which I think you kind of have to be a little bit more mellow with your play with Doriath, because if you go forward into the breach first, you're just a little bit less durable than Feanor and Finarfin. But having Feanor and Finarfin supported by Doriath, I think is pretty pretty tough to deal with. I mean, there are the wargs now. They've come in from behind, the Vorjak. But I mean, if they get caught by the Accursed, they're going to be in trouble. But that's less of a good thing. Oh, I definitely don't want my swords mixed up in that nonsense. Yeah, I mean, they've only got one unit at this point of cavalry that they can call upon to attack us from behind, and that's not going to be enough, I don't think. As good as the Vorjak may be, or Vorbak. Oof. Yeah, well, I mean, they saw them, but that's not too surprising, to be honest with you. As soon as they reveal themselves once again, that'll be what my Kuthalim are used for. But it could be that the Kuthalim don't actually do anything in this battle. Okay, I'm just going to send forward all of the units I have that don't have. Ooh, they must have just got charged. They did indeed by the Vorbak. I don't have any spears, so it can't be my job, unfortunately, to guard against those cavalry charges. I don't have anything to deal with them. All of my units would be horribly inefficient at trying to tackle the charge head on from a fairly beefy unit of cavalry like that. Those rangers can definitely don't want my marksman to be over there either, but I will put my marksman on the front line now. Doesn't he have any yeah, why, I don't know why Angmar's sending his shield bearers of Hellethorn to the front. They're not going to be that useful in the melee fight to come, and they could be much better used at dealing with that Vorbak that's currently mowing down our depleted units at the back. Yeah, I know warriors can kill them on the charge, but it's not something that I'd want to take head on. It's something that I'd want to, when they slow down and when they've had their assault blunted, I would want to send my axemen in. That might just be force of habit more than anything else, but yeah. What have we got here? Axemen of the Girdle. Okay. I think we should get ready, honestly, to just cross at this point. And just and at least give them a fighting chance. I think if we attack now in a fairly disorganised fashion, then maybe they can make something happen. And I think that would probably be fair. So I'm going to roll in now. Just go all out across here on the on one of the bridges. This is not necessarily the smartest thing to do. We could just sort of sit here and slowly poke away at their strength a little bit more, but I'm going to move in now because I think, you know, let's be sporting about this. Also, I mean, this is still a fairly substantial force forward. They're going to have to send something in against that. And swordsman. Yeah, let's go across there.
The battle is very much in our favour. Victory will be ours.
See what we can make happen here. More axemen of the Girdle. Yeah, and honestly, I think, I mean, I don't really want to shoot my Kuthalim ammunition into thralls of Angband, of all things. But I mean, maybe we do. Maybe we just go after and try and fill our boots with some kills. Yeah, let's do it. Make ourselves look a little bit better. Because I feel as though Artorias did the heavy lifting in the middle, and I think Uraki as well. I think we were definitely the spare wheel in both of those situations. But not that that's a bad thing, I think, all things considered. Yeah, there are the Ash Priests. You can see the fiery balls of doom being utilised. The axe throwers don't seem to have quite as forgiving an arc of fire as they do in Reforged. I am noticing that. In Reforged you can throw over your own men a little bit easier. They seem to have a similar arc to javelins in Silmarillion, which is it's okay. It just makes them just that little bit more awkward to use, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just what have we got going on here? Yeah, we'll go down this road with them. Eastron Marauders? I don't think so. Ooh, they just got ruined by something. Not entirely sure what, to be honest with you, but there they go. Right, they are out of ammunition, so we'll get ready to move them in. Yeah, you fire at them. At least you'll fire at them. No, 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 no. What are you doing with yourselves? Unacceptable behaviour from my axe throwers. Although, to be fair, the axe throwers have been real awkward to use. Ooh, there's something that I want to go after. Throw your axes at them. Right, warriors of Region. Go after the troll guard. I mean, that's not great, but I mean, we're fine. I mean, we always knew we were going to take losses going across here like this. And we're doing the business. I mean, it's going to be painful, but I think ultimately we're going to have like another run of Artorias' stuff, including some Nargothrond units and the Sartor Finderato, so it's going to be pretty tough for them, I think, to come back from that. Ooh. Another unit to commit. Marksman and Nargothrond, you guys got to get in there, because you're getting attacked quite readily. The internet actually hasn't been too much of a problem, unless the stream has gone down when I'm talking to myself, which would be most unfortunate. But actually, all is well. Right, the Cuthalim. So yeah, I've got pretty much everything committed at this point, other than the unit of 8 Rangers of the Girdle. So yeah, obviously we're going to take some fairly hefty losses here, but I mean, really can't be helped. And ultimately I don't think they have anywhere near enough left to actually do any significant damage to us. Yeah, the axe throwers, they don't have quite the same arc as in Reforged, which does make it just a little bit more awkward to use them. Like in this situation in Reforged, something like this would be really, really good. If we can throw across into the side though, I mean at this point I just want to dump my ammunition to anything I can get my hands on. Just go in with everything. Cuthalim are really, really nasty, like they've got really high stats. Yeah, there's still some units over there, but they seem to have everything in hand. And at this point, tactics go out the window, because I will have everything committed, and hopefully that will be that. I've got Warriors of Region in here. Defeat seems certain on this front line, so they might have the Ash Priests over here, to be fair. The Balrogs are going to fall, and to be fair, we've got so much shock infantry over here that we should be fine at dealing with them, but the Ash Priests are extremely potent in melee, because they cannot be staggered as they fight, and they've got enormous damage values, but there are only so many of them. Victory seems certain for them, though. Maybe it would be... Right, well, these guys are just refusing to use their ammunition, so I will pull them back, and I think what we will do is we'll go after those guys up on the top there, because at least then they're firing at something. There's one Balrog here, but it's okay, we've got some Wards of Nargothrond. This is the classic end to a siege, where everything slows right down. But, yeah. Yeah, just 19% the difference, so we've got a fairly decent, lead, considering as well that we did charge in rather gung-ho. Yeah, there are the Ash Priests, which are obviously the real danger here, because they're going to be able to do tons and tons of damage to us. Victory still seems certain over here, so they don't have the Ash Priests over here. They might have some more Sons of Ulfang or something in there. That's another unit that's very, very strong on the front line, but I find it hard to believe that they would be winning. Maybe they've got some Halberds in there as well. It's always a possibility. Right, can we really just try to finagle this so I can actually utilise my... Maybe if I just... Still got my poison arrows firing in. Might be missiles as well. There's always that possibility. Thing is though, even if they win, like, we've still got this over here, and we're obviously just mashing the Easterlings down over here, and then we'll have a whole nother wing, including stuff like Defenders of Aglon. Even stuff like the out of ammunition archers are going to be awkward to deal with, and then there's bodyguards back here. I've already committed my bodyguards in, but oh, they ran away. Well, they really don't want to fire, do they? Starting to see some breaking. Maybe it would be worth my while to fire my poison arrows in there. The real Med 2 experience, moving your skirmishers around so you can try and get a good shot off. Well, Axemen are not AP, are they? They're projectiles? Throwing Axemen? I think like if you have your shields pointed towards axe throwers, they will block in the same way as arrows, whereas I think javelins are a bit more like crossbows. Whereas, you know, obviously javelins and crossbows, they're able to sort of punch through stuff like that a little bit more. Whereas, it's not so much the case with axe throwers. They do seem to be firing their projectiles now, which is better than nothing, so we'll just let them be. Cuthalim's starting to take some damage, but they're on the front line now, so yeah, there are halberdiers in there, which is probably part of the reason why we're having a bit of trouble getting through here.
If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
But yeah, I think on this occasion, I mean, it might be the fact that money-wise, obviously it's a little bit difficult to work out sieges for Silmarillion, because obviously none of us really knew what we were doing. But I don't think it was too far away. I think part of the... When you consider as well the amount of money they spent on cavalry, which did some good damage to Ammar, but I don't really know how well the Salamandrine Guard did. Like, they got some shots off, but I don't think, considering how expensive they are, I don't know if horse archers in this situation, as good as the Salamandrines are, I don't know if they would have been the... I don't know if they would have been optimal. Maybe trying to double down on like going into the red limit on some Sons of Ulfang would be... Because I only saw one, and they were caught on the end of those Finarfin pikemen. Yeah, this is going to be the end now. We've got some more reinforcements on the way forward. My general's right on the front line though. He probably will die before the end of this battle. And a lot of the units are now halberdiers and Iron Crown units, which are just that little bit more awkward to try and wear down in this sort of situation. Most of my shock infantry is sort of on its last legs, and also over on this side. Yeah, I think the defenders would have benefited from a little bit more money. But also, if it's 5v3, that also gives a little bit more of a bonus to the attackers as well, because you just have a whole nother army that is commanded by a whole nother player. And also, the only other way in would have been over here, which I attacked in that scenario, and it's getting across a bridge is just such a pain. But yeah, Finarfin strong at the moment just because of their pikes. But that's what they're all about. As soon as like other pikes get added to the game, I think the sheen will be taken off them somewhat, because they won't have it all to themselves. Even if like I think the next unit is a unit of human pikes from Fingolfin, isn't it? And they'll be presumably lower tier than the bridge wards, but the fact that they won't have that all to themselves anymore it'll be interesting. And yeah, I know that Artorius is a big fan of these of certain builds. Like he's got an Angband build, which maybe we can see in the future as well. Easterlings, I think, are one of those. They are definitely a damage faction. Doriath are not too dissimilar to the Eastlings, I don't think, in the sense that they're like, you know, Doriath have got the axe throwers as well. I think they're the only two factions to really sort of go in heavy on them. They also obviously have more of a focus around shock infantry. Both their like general's bodyguard infantry units are infantry, like are armor piercing shock infantry rather, in the Donath and the Sons of Ulfang. Yeah, this is going to be the end. Obviously, we're in behind them now. My Cuthalim did live to see the end, but yeah, in the end, fairly decent differential there for us. But it was a rough one for them to deal with, I think. I think their most successful front was honestly the one that I saw least of, because it was probably over there where the wargs were doing their thing. But difficult for the defenders, I would say, but still, that is the first large-scale siege in Silmarillion I think I've been part of. At least on this scale. There is still those wargs back there, which are proving to be a bit of a nuisance. But they'll ultimately it's going to be way too late to save anything over here. think those wargs are the last thing left. What's that over there? Stalks of Thargellion? I think it's probably time you can charge your wargs in now and just leave them in melee. Like, you're not going to win the battle at this point. It's all over for you.
Our men have slain the enemy general. Behold how our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press the attack.
No, I'll probably end the stream after this battle, to be honest. Like, a siege is a fairly long endeavour. Was your general in the Sons of Ulfang by any chance? Or one unit of Sons of Ulfang? Because that would explain a lot. There's one clan guard there. We're not going to make it to this fight, I don't think. Yeah, the Chieftain's Vanguard, the other high-end unit. Well, I mean, I streamed this one, so I'm probably not going to cast it and upload it myself. But if someone else wants it, they're more than welcome to. Arqueni are also in there. I didn't notice them, actually. They're such a small unit, but you ignore them at your peril because they're so strong. They're another unit. Like, the bodyguard units in this, like, you've really got to keep an eye on them because they are very, very strong.
This is a clear victory.
There we go. So, yeah. 27. Yeah, I think the Easterling... well, I don't know, like, the Easterling composition probably would have been best off fighting against me. Yeah, and obviously lowest amount of kills for me, which is not terribly shocking, to be honest with you, considering I was just following in the wake of Artorius and Uraki. Amar did well, actually, considering he had to fight probably the most numbers over there, and it looked like he ended up taking quite a lot of damage, but he obviously was facing off against more as well. But yeah, pretty much that's kind of the spread I was expecting. I mean, now would probably be a good time actually to see what... I mean, my Cuthalin got a lot of kills, but that was mostly on trash that I was shooting for the hell of it at the end. Axemen of the Girdle, they did okay. They were just there to support the pike push. Warriors of Region, yeah, I mean, pretty decent return on a few of these units. A lot of them sort of not breaking 100, but a lot of them were also fighting in very grindy fights alongside Feanor and Finarfin armies. So yeah, not bad. Again, considering my role, I wasn't expecting to get the most kills by any means. And yeah, it was very nasty to deal with. I think, I mean, yeah, the Easterling composition that he had probably would have been best against me, to be honest, than Doriath. But I was not, by design, I was not going to be assaulting a choke point all by myself. So he didn't really have a great target you could go after. Maybe Feanor probably would have been slightly better for him, because he at least wouldn't have been held further away by the pikes, and he would have been able to close in and use his AP on the infantry, but ultimately his range support still wouldn't have been that good against Feanor, I don't think. Tolin Gowerhoth did quite well, probably because of the Cav. And Angband as well. Hishbut Kraz Ash Priest as well probably didn't do too badly. They were able to shoot into the blob that we charged across the bridges at the end. But yeah, not a bad fight at all. So I will... obviously I won't be casting that, but if anyone else wants to save it and send it on to someone else, I will. I would not be against that. Anyway, now we are back. I can now actually have a look at chat in the many minutes since I've last been here. So, let's see. I missed a lot because obviously in a siege it's quite long, and without being able to alt-tab, it's a bit of a pain. But let's see. People saying goodbye earlier on. Noldor-based factions are somewhat similar in the lore. Yeah. But then that's going to be the same with the Sindar as well. Prisoner scenario map. Yeah, it's the same map as that. I think in that version of it, it's a little bit less deserty and it's a little bit more lush. Although that may be a trick of the eyes because of the new foliage that has been put into Silmarillion. What's your favourite looking faction as of yet? That's difficult because I think one thing that Silmarillion has got absolutely bang on is the aesthetics of the factions. They all look pretty damn good. Even a faction which is meant to be a little bit more tattered, like Tolin Gowerhoth, like their look suits them so nicely. But I think if I were to pick one faction that I like the look of the most, I'd probably go with the Falathrim, honestly. Just because their high tier, sort of heavier units all look absolutely top quality. Do I know Pixelated Apollo? I think anyone who has done stuff in 3rd Age knows Pixelated Apollo. Linden is not used a lot in the 3rd Age Reforged patch, just because the other elves are just a little bit easier to use, I think. J Monster is here, but he arrived just a little too late. Alas. My 44 boys. What are the teams? Elven Attack Force against Orcs and Even Men, and Eastern Men. Well, yeah, I think all of the good factions are primarily Elven at this point in time. The Easterlings are the only purely human faction in the game. I think, like I said, Fingolfin is going to be the next one added. At least that was the general sense I got. The throwing axes will have a hard time throwing without good line of sight. Yeah, I did notice that. It's more sort of the holdover from Reforged that obviously the arc of fire in Reforged is just a little bit more forgiving. But yeah, obviously that's just how it be. Bows and javelins are good. Yeah, so javelins are further away will do better. But I only had the one unit of javelins and they were out. Heavy commitment. Let's see, any more questions? Uraloki? No Uraloki on the field, actually. Which was quite interesting. That could have been... Again, though, I think Uraloki maybe wouldn't have been the answer either. I think Uraloki, like Feanor and Finarfin, just... It's so difficult to break down, Feanor and Finarfin, I think, once again, the Uraloki would have been slightly more useful against me, but I wasn't committing towards one choke point all on my lonesome. So it would have been a little bit more difficult. Master Blaster's here, hello. Has a lot of arrows left, yeah. Like we had enough ammunition left that they were kind of doomed by the late game, unfortunately for them. So yeah, just heading down to the bottom. Do I still play Reforged? Yeah, my next stream will probably be in Reforged, which will probably be at the start of next weekend. New army builds. Hurin's bodyguard will have locked morale. I would certainly hope so. But yeah, so we've reached up to the start, and I think this was pretty successful, all things considered. It was a little bit of a messy start, considering it. You got to gather players together. But next time, I think we will be a little bit more organised with things, and hopefully we can take it from there. But yeah, that was a pretty decent and successful first solo stream, I have to say. And yeah, it's nice to have a nice siege in Silmarillion, because you don't get to see them too often. And like I said, if anyone wants the replay of that, I'm sure one of the others saved it. You can go and get it off them and have a look at it, I think. But yeah, as I said, I think we'll run on the loose assumption that next Friday will be another good date to do another stream. If that lines up with one of the things that Eclipse does, maybe we can do it in a scenario in Reforged. If not, then we'll play it by ear. But yeah, I think that was good. Hopefully next time as well we can get someone else into the voice chat to go along with me, whether that be J Monster. Hopefully he can make it next time. Obviously the time difference between me and him is perhaps the most extreme. Actually, I think it would be Scouts, wouldn't it? But if Windy's around, that would be much more easy to make work, because we're in the same country, kind of. We're both in the UK anyway. But yeah, again, hopefully we'll have someone else to jump in with us next time. But if not, it'll just be me again. I don't know what time next Friday it would be. It would probably be around the same time, to be honest with you. It would be like, I think 7 PM GMT is probably a pretty good ballpark, because it's early enough in the evening for me that there's going to be no issues, and it's about the right sort of time where people start to become available. If I do it earlier, people who live in America or Canada may not be able to make it quite so easily, because obviously then it starts to get into early morning time for them, which is one of the issues with myself and J Monster playing together. He has to get up earlier just to get things to line up. So yeah, we'll run along with that for now. 7 PM Friday for the next one. If not Friday, then I would endeavour to do it the very next day on Saturday. So I think that would be good. But yeah, next there will be a channel update which will release on Tuesday, I believe. It was going to be today actually, but instead, because of the streaming and because of the Minas Tirith siege, everything got moved around a little bit. But the next will be a channel update which will let everyone know sort of what's happening in a more general sense with the channel. And after that, we'll be doing another siege battle, I believe, that I'm going to be casting for Reforged, and then we'll just move on from there. But I hope everyone enjoyed. Obviously, I'm a little bit new to this to the streaming thing, but it does seem to be going quite well. as of now. I have no major hiccups anyway. Hopefully I'll be able to get the borderless window working, so I'll be a little bit more interactive in the future, because that is a bit of a shame. That was really the only black mark against this. But other than that, yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all join me for whatever is next.